must attend to the serious business of contriving material security. So should young men as well. Jane Austen's sardonic, whatever that means, humour lays bare the stratagems, the hypocrisy, and the poignancy inherent in the struggles of two very different sisters to achieve respectability. Sense and Sensibility is a delightful comedy of manners in which the sisters Eleanor and Marianne represent these two qualities. Eleanor's character is one of Augustan detachment, while Marianne, a fervent disciple of the Romantic age, learns to curb her passionate nature in the interests of survival. Dun dun dun. This book, the first of Austen's novels to be published, remains as fresh a cautionary tale today as it ever was. Sorry, there's a momentary laugh in my head there. I thought there was toothpaste stuck on my thumb, but it's actually just the light. Anyway, I digress. So that's Sense and Sensibility. That's book one. Okay, next up we have Anna Karenina, whatever, by Leo Tolstoy. Now, this is a thick old book, but later on, let's see. Spoiler alert. No, not spoiler alert. Let's see, where is it? It'll come to it later. But I have War and Peace as a thick old book as well, both by Tolstoy. I think he was bored and he just kept on writing. Let's see. Anna Karenina, I can't even say it, is one of the most loved and memorable heroines of literature. Her overwhelming charm, like mine, dominates a novel of unparalleled richness and density. Well, it's definitely dense anyway. Tolstoy considered this book to be his first real attempt at a novel form, and it addresses the very nature of society at all levels, of destiny, death, human relationships, and their irreconcilable contradictions of existence. That's exciting. It ends tragically. Well, why are you telling us that now for? Flip me, pink, purple and blue. Anyway, it ends tragically, and there is much that evokes despair. Sounds fun. Yet set beside this is an abounding joy in life's many ephemeral pleasures and a profusion of comic relief. Well, super. So that was Anna. Her wrote the name I can't say. Next up, we come to a book with many words that I will not be able to pronounce, but I will not be reading it out loud anyway. We come to The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. So, let's see. Oh, it doesn't tell us anything in the back, it's just what I call the thingamajig. Praise. How, given little over half a century of work, did one man become the creative equivalent of a people? Well, that's quite lofty praise. Demanding to be compared with English mythologies, at times rises to the greatest of true myth. A creation myth of singular beauty, magnificent in its best moments, but what is it in its worst moments? A grim, tragic, brooding and beautiful book, shot through with heroism and hope. Its power is almost that of mysticism. And stern, sweeping myth, an imaginative work of staggering comprehensiveness. I wonder, does the book actually say anywhere what it's about? There we go. The Silmarillion is an account of the elder days, or the Silmarils, but they were seized by Morgoth and set in his crown, guarded in the fortress of Angband in the north of Middle-earth. The Silmarillion is the history. I always thought it was the Silmarillion. Anyway, the Silmarillion is the history of the rebellion of Fëanor and his kindred against the gods, their exile from Valinor and their return to Middle-earth, and their war, hopeless despite their heroism. There's a spoiler alert, against the great enemy. Included in the book are several shorter works. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word. Is a myth of the creation, and in the Valaquenta, the nature and powers of each of the gods is described. The Akalabeth recounts the downfall of the great island kingdom of Numenor at the end of the Second Age, and of the Rings of Power tells of the great events at the end of the Third Age, which are narrated in The Lord of the Rings. There you go. So that was The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. Video reviews. Next up, we will go for Helen Keller, The Story of My Life. This is a wee bit. Let's see. The Story of My Life, Helen Keller. When she was 19 years old, when she was 19 months old, Helen Keller, 1880 to 1968, suffered a severe illness that left her blind and deaf. Not long after, she also became mute. Her tenacious struggle to overcome these handicaps, with the help of her inspired teacher Anne Sullivan, is one of the great stories of human courage and dedication. In this classic autobiography, first published in 1903, Miss Keller recounts the first 22 years of her life, including the magical moment of the water pump, when, recognizing the connection between the word water and the cold liquid flowing over her hand, she realized that objects had names. Subsequent experiences were equally noteworthy. Her joy at eventually learning to speak, her friendships with Oliver Wendell Holmes, Edward Everett Hale, and other notables, her education at Radcliffe, from which she graduated cum laude, and underlying all, her extraordinary relationship with Miss Sullivan, who showed a remarkable genius for communicating with her eager and quick-to-learn pupil. So that's Helen Keller, The Story of My Life. Next up, let me see. So many piles to pick from. Well, 6. Next up, we have Don Quixote by Cervantes. This is another thick book. It'll take a while to get through. I don't know what it's about, so let's find out. Cervantes' tale of the deranged gentleman who turns knight-errant, tilts at windmills and battles with sheep. He battles with sheep, anyway, and battles with sheep in the service of the Lady of his Dreams, Dulcinea del Toboso, has fascinated generations of readers and inspired other creative artists such as Flaubert, Picasso, and Richard Strauss. The tall, thin knight and his short, fat squire, Sancho Panza, have found their way into films, cartoons, and even computer games. Supposedly intended as a parody of the most popular escapist fiction of the day, the books of chivalry. This precursor of the modern novel broadened and deepened into a sophisticated comic account of the contradictions of human nature. On his heroic journey, embody some of the constraints of virtue. Cervantes' greatest work can be enjoyed on many levels, all suffused with a subtle irony that reaches out to encompass the reader and does not leave the author outside its circle. There we go. That is Don Quixote by Cervantes. Quite sure I'm butchering that, but sure, what can you do? Next up, let's see. This is a rather old book. It's The Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth. Let's see. Is there a year at the front of it? Okay, so it's The Day of the Jackal by Frederick Forsyth. As a political thriller, it is virtually in a class by itself, subtle, fast-moving, superbly written, unputdownable, easily beating Ian Fleming on his own ground. The entire French background is convincing and beautifully atmospheric, down to the last whiff of colours. A compelling, utterly enthralling first novel, some of the tensest thriller writing I can remember reading. The tension, excitement and pace are brilliantly maintained to the last page. A lot of praise for it there, doesn't really say what it's about. There we go. In the spring of 1963, after the last conventional attempt to assassinate President de Gaulle had failed, Colonel Mark Woden, operations chief of the OAS, launched the plan of the Jackal. The Jackal was an anonymous Englishman who came literally within an inch of destroying de Gaulle and possibly changing the course of world history. Frederick Forsyth's brilliantly researched novel reveals how the assassin was recruited, how much he was paid, the intricate planning that went into the attempt, the international security net that was set up but failed to trap him, the fantastic chase across the continent in which he kept only a step ahead of his pursuers, and the unprecedented security measures the French were compelled to adopt to save the president from the most assassin known in modern times. There you go, The Day of the Jackal. One man with a rifle who can change the course of history. Who is he? Can he be found? Next up is actually the book that I'm currently reading on my laptop and my tablet. My tablet's not, that was a phone. Anyway, it's Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. The last book that I read, which I finished yesterday, was Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. It was a good book. Not too bad. About an inch thick of a book. Crime, let's get that later out of the way, okay? Crime and Punishment is based on Dostoevsky's own terrifying experiences of summary justice and the cruel penal systems of Tsarist Russia. It is a dark tale set in the dingy tenements, back streets and bars of pre-revolutionaries in Petersburg, and concerns the actions of a murderer, Raskolnikov. See, that's ruined it for me because so far he hasn't killed anyone, who, setting himself in the role of a Superman of Napoleonic proportions, decides to commit homicide as a matter of principle. Thus, the scene is set for an epic story of careful criminal investigation. Raskolnikov's entrapment in the tentacles of his own conscience, and the possibility of his eventual salvation through punishment and suffering. There we go. So that's Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Right. Next up, we have The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. As I say here, a gothic horror story of quite exceptional quality, macabre, bizarre, unconventional to say the least. 2 years after I killed Blythe, I murdered my young brother Paul, for quite different and more fundamental reasons than I disposed of Blythe. And then a year after that, I did for my young cousin Esmeralda, more or less on a whim, as my score to date, 3. I haven't killed anybody for years, and don't intend to ever again. It was just a stage I was going through. A mighty imagination has arrived on the scene real on Sunday. They're probably immigrants. There's no denying the bizarre fertility of the author's imagination, his brilliant dialogue, his cruel humour. Read it if you dare, weirdly talented. A brilliant book, barmy and barnacled with the grotesque. The Wasp Factory is a first novel, not only of tremendous promise, but also of achievement, a minor masterpiece. Oh, there we go. So that's The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. Next up, let's see. We have Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie. India has produced a great novelist, a master of perpetual storytelling. I never knew Salman Rushdie was Indian. Okay. Winner of the 1993 Booker of Bookers. See, the back of it just has a lot of praise. The front of it tell you what it is. Okay. No, that's just more stuff about Salman Rushdie. It's weird. It doesn't tell you what the book's about. It's not going to tell you the back. Well, I suppose the only thing I can say is whenever I do my not next one, but at some point when I do a book review, I'll tell you. So that's Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie. Next up. Let's see, 1 second. Sorry, just doing a wee bit of rearrangement there. Okay, so next up we have Paradise Lost by John Milton. All about the descent into hell. Anyway, Paradise Lost. This controversial poem of the 17th century centres around the creation myth. Through his rich and powerful verse, Milton relates the story of the fall of mankind and the subsequent banishment from paradise. Milton's evocative representation of Eden has become ingrained in our everyday language as he conjures up the fiery hell and idyllic garden, the mysterious and awe-inspiring God, and the cunning Satan, who decides evil be thou my good. Eve is created as a companion for Adam, but Satan comes to her in the form of a serpent and tempts her to taste the succulent forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge. Thus man's free will brought about the fall. Yet Milton's God is merciful and offers Adam and Eve a paradise on earth, to come from within themselves. Paradise Lost conveys with clarity and vision an overall image of creation and has deservedly become one of the great epics in any because I had got to know the families. War and Peace is a vast epic centered on Napoleon's war with Russia. While it expresses Tolstoy's view that history is an inexorable process which man cannot influence, he peoples his great novel with a cast of over 500 characters. Three of these, the artless and delightful Natasha Rostov, the world-weary Prince Andrei Bolkonsky, and the idealistic Pierre Busukov, illustrate Tolstoy's philosophy in this novel of unquestioned mastery. This translation is the one which received Tolstoy's approval. Well, there you go. And look how small the writing is in it as well. It's this thick, and yet the writing is that small. And so, right, there is War and Peace, and that takes a month to read. And there is an actor in it with, I suppose, just about the same size of font. So yeah, that's going to take a while to read as well. As I say, Tolstoy didn't know how to stop writing. Okay, next up. This is another book from the top 100 books to read before you die. Never heard of it before looking at this book, looking at that website. This is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Anglais. It's a masterpiece of science fiction, apparently. It's not too thick a book. A Wrinkle in Time. That isn't Charles. Charles is gone. Charles and Meg and her friend Calvin travel through a wrinkle in time in search of their missing father. But can they beat the evil forces they meet on their dangerous journey through time and space? One of the most compelling fantasy classics of our time. Well, there you go. I've never heard of it, but I'll let you know how it goes. Next up, we have James Bond in Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. The reason why I brought this book up from home is not that I'm a great fan of. I think I've read one Ian Fleming book. Hell, I might have even read this one years and years ago. It's more the case of, it's a really old book. I know it says 1980 there, but that's not when it was printed out. Well, obviously it wasn't one of the first Bond books. Live and Let Die, Moonraker, Diamonds Are Forever, From Russia with Love, Dr. No, Goldfinger, For Your Eyes Only, Thunderwall, The Spy Who Loved Me, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, You Only Live Once, No You Don't, You Only Live Twice, The Man with the Golden Gun, Octopussy, and The Living Daylights. Let's see, first published in 53, but this was published in 78. So, at the casino in Duval, Bond's game is baccarat for stakes that run into millions of francs. But away from the discreet salons of the caviar and champagne, it's 007 versus one of Russia's most powerful and ruthless agents, and the prize is a bullet in the head from a trained Smersh assassin. A superb gambling scene, a torture scene which still haunt me, and of course, a beautiful girl. That's Raymond Chandler. So that is James Bond's, or Ian Fleming's Casino Royale. Next up, we have George and Mildred. Only joking, we have George Eliot, Middlemarch. Now, this is another monster. analysis of the life of an English provincial town is set during the time of the social unrest prior to the first Reform Bill of 1832. It is told through the lives of Dorothea Brooke and Dr. Tertius Lydgate, and includes a host of other paradigm characters who illuminate the condition of English life in the mid-19th century. Henry James described Middlemarch as a treasure house of detail, while Virginia Woolf famously endorsed George Eliot's masterpiece as one of the few English novels written for grown-up people. Does that include me? So that's Middlemarch by George Eliot. Okay, next up we have a double book, two different volumes. We have Les Miserables, Volume 1, and Les Miserables, Volume 2, by Victor Hugo. One of the great classics of Western literature, Les Miserables is a magisterial work which is rich in both character portrayal and meticulous historical description. Characters such as the absurdly criminalized Valjean, the street urchin Gavroche, the rascal Thénardier, the implacable detective Javert, and the pitiful figure of the prostitute Fantine and her daughter Cosette have entered the pantheon of literary dramatis personae. The reader is also treated to the unforgettable descriptions of the Battle of Waterloo, Valjean's flight through the bar sewers, and the fighting at the barricades during the July Revolution. Just going to check here that, yeah, the same descriptions in the back of book 2. There you go. Let's see, that's a bit of a monster there. It's probably as long as War and Peace. Certainly. So, we're making a dent. Anyway, next up we have another book that was originally from a French author. And we have The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. The Three Musketeers is one of the most celebrated historical romances ever written. It tells of the adventures of the hot-headed young Gascon, D'Artagnan, and his three companions, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. All I can think of was D'Artagnan, anyway. In their gallant defence of the Queen of France, Anne of Austria, they pit their wits and their swords against the machinations and men of that archetypal eminence Greece, Cardinal Richelieu, as he schemes to hold on to his political influence over King Louis XIII. Their swashbuckling adventures take them from the high fashion of the French court to the murkier aspects of espionage on either side of the Channel, in a thrilling story of 17th century international intrigue. There you go. That's like a two thumbs thick book. Next up, we come to Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy, a trilogy in 4 parts. So, there's 4 books there. It's quite thick. Let's see, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. One Thursday lunchtime, the Earth gets unexpectedly demolished to make way for a new hyperspace bypass. For Arthur Dent, who has only just had his house demolished that morning, this seems already to be more than he can cope with. Sadly, however, the weekend has only just begun, and the galaxy is a very, very, very large and startling place. Then the next one is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. When all the questions of space, time, matter, and the nature of being Nazi concentration camps at Auschwitz and Buchenwald. As a child, this is his account of that atrocity, the ever-increasing horrors he endured, the loss of his family and his struggle to survive.